Hi, it's Dave Tyler from Avid here at NAMM 2020. And what I wanted to do is talk to you a little bit about this amazing setup that we have here featuring the new S1. So the S1 is an 8-fader control surface that we introduced just towards the end of last year. And you're able to connect up to 4 of them together. So here at NAMM, what we've done is we've got 3 S1s together, plus the dock to give us a 24-fader mixing console together with the dock for the control. So I'll explain how this all is set up and how it all works. So the S1 is an Ethernet-based control surface using our own Yukon protocol, which is a very versatile protocol. It's used not just in Pro Tools, but Yukon is available in Logic, Cubase, Nuendo, whole lot of other DAWs, so you can actually use these surfaces with Pro Tools and other DAWs as well. So it's all Ethernet based, so essentially each one of these S1s is its own Ethernet device. So we go back to, there's a little switch behind here which then connects back to our host computer. So that's how we set it up. There's a simple program called uControl which enables us to set everything up, declare the surfaces, configure it all, set up preferences and all that kind of good stuff. So this is how it's set up. We've got essentially, so we end up with 4 separate devices on our Ethernet network, and then we have these optional tablets as well. So the S1 is a surface which features 8 faders. We've got 8 encoders. We've got some function keys, which we'll come on to in a second, and a bunch of programmable soft keys, which I'll also talk about in a second. But we also have this place for an optional tablet. So the stress here is that it's optional. You can perfectly use an S1 without a tablet, no problem at all. But adding the tablet gives us a meter bridge. So if we just get Pro Tools playing, and you'll see that as we play, then these meters start showing up and we can see activity on our session. It's using the same ballistics, the same metering ballistics that we're using in Pro Tools. So not only do we have our channel meters, but we can also see functions that are associated with our session. So we can see our EQ curves, we can see our dynamics, and we can see all of these. The dynamics are actually animated so that you can see that the gain reduction happening in real time as you're working on your session. So the optional tablet really does make a big difference to the S1 in terms of visual feedback and giving you a lot more information. So the tablet is running what's called Avid Control. Avid Control is a free app, and it's available for Android and iOS, and that bit is really important because it gives us the choice of whichever tablet we want to use with this surface. So the Avid Control app is set up in uControl that we talked about a second ago, and we set it up into what's called meter mode. So meter mode means it's associated with an S1, so as I bank up and down, then the S1 and the tablet follow each other. So I'm always looking at the right tracks, okay? So what we've done in this particular setup was we're using Android tablets. These are Samsung Galaxy Tab A's, just for maybe a more cost-effective meter bridge. So, but on this side, when we come to the dock, which we'll look at in a moment, we're using a full-on iPad Pro. So, you can choose the right tablet for the job depending on what you need to do. Because the tablet which is in the dock is going to be our master tablet, which I'll explain in a second, whereas these are just in meter mode. So as I say, they're purely optional, but really do add something to the surface. So if we dive into the S1 itself a little bit, and then we'll have a quick look at the dock as well. So let's just have a look at S1. Actually, one thing I ought to mention, if I can just do this one-handed, these consoles have a magnet inside so that they snap together nicely, make it really, really easy to set up. So there's no sort of configuration at all. We just snap them all together and they look great just as sitting on this table. Okay, so let's have a look at the S1 itself. As I say, 8 faders. They're really nice, good quality faders. We've got a select button which lets us choose what we're actually accessing within Pro Tools. So press the select button, it enables me to choose which EQ or which dynamics I'm accessing and which the ones I'm changing. We've got a button here which can be used either for track arming or to set our automation modes, solo and mute buttons, and then we have this row of encoders. Now the function of these encoders is determined by whichever mode we're in up the top here. So we can look at all of the inserts which are on a particular track, and we can do that on a channel by channel basis and look at insert slot A on each channel, or we can go into what's called channel mode where we look at all the insert slots just for one channel only. Then if I press EQ, it'll bring up whatever EQ plugin is happens to be installed onto that track. So if I select a track, press EQ, and now it'll bring up all my EQ parameters along the surface, so frequency gain and so on. So as I change those, let's see if we go to this channel here, because I change those, and you should see those being changed actually on the EQ curve itself, on the EQ graph. So we can also access our dynamics. So if I press dynamics again on any one of these channels, then it'll bring up my parameters for whichever dynamics plugin happens to be inserted there. The really important thing here is that when we use EQ and dynamics, whichever plugin we're using, whoever its manufacturer is, whether it's Waves or or an Avid one or a DSP or Sonics, whoever it is, the plugin parameters will always appear in the same place. So we have this consistency that my my EQ, my say low bands, my low mid, high bands all appear in the same place on the surface regardless of which plugin I'm using. That's really important in terms of mixing, because that muscle memory, you just want to press EQ, you want to just change the parameter. You don't have to be thinking about, oh no, this is a slightly different layout because it's a different plugin. So that consistency when you're using these EQ and dynamics modes is actually really important. Then we've got auxiliary, so that's any sends that we have on our track. Again, we can do this on a channel-by-channel basis, or we can interrogate all the sends for one particular channel. And then finally, we've got panning. So we can access all the panning parameters, and that could be stereo, but it could be 5171, all the way up to Dolby Atmos panning. Whatever pan parameters available will appear on these encoders here. So that's a really easy way to then navigate around your session using these different modes and making use of the encoders which are on here. And as I change the different modes and access different functions, then those are reflected on the meter bridge as well on the tablet. At the bottom here, we've got some user-definable soft keys. So we've got 8 of them, and they default to being my keyboard modifiers, so Shift, Control, Option, Command on a Mac. And then for user controls, you can actually redefine all those to be whatever you want. Out of the box, I think user 1, 2, 3, 4 actually recall layouts. So a layout is a way of saving a particular configuration of faders. Say, for example, you create a layout which has got all of your vocal tracks or whatever. So it means that then I can easily recall a layout or go back to seeing all of my tracks. So that's one way of doing it, but we can easily reprogram those. So just one example we've got here is that here at NAMM we are previewing folder tracks. This is going to be in the next release of Pro Tools, a really important new feature, something we've been working on a long time, and obviously we want that to be accessible through our surfaces as well. So with folder tracks, what I've actually done here is I've repurposed the user 4 key and programmed it up to the Shift plus F keyboard shortcut, which is the one which is used for opening and closing folder tracks. So it means that as I'm using my console, I can then select a folder track, press my user 4 button, and it will open up or close my folder, so I can easily navigate without having to sort of keep going back to Pro Tools. So let's finish off by looking at over here towards the dock. So the dock is a product which has been around a little while. Really, fits in nicely. You can see the industrial design is designed so that the S1 and the dock, they look great together. It really provides a kind of a center focus, I guess, to this whole setup. It gives me dedicated transport. It gives me dedicated navigation controls. We've got automation controls for whichever is my attention fader. So if I select a button here on my surface, then this will come and be reflected here, and I can then access my automation modes or whatever I want to do. Then we have even more programmable soft keys. This is a really key feature of any Yukon surface. It's programmability. There's a whole bunch of Yukon soft keys. You can chain soft keys together. You can chain commands together, rather, so that you can use soft keys to trigger macros. So actually, this is a really powerful way of working and something which is well worth exploring. You can trigger not only Yukon commands, but just any keyboard shortcut that you want. So you can really sort of customize this to your own particular workflow. So the tablet over on here, which is in the dock, is what's called our master tablet. So as I say, when you drop a tablet onto the S1 itself, if you've got more than one of them, then they become metering tablets. but we have at least one. A maximum of one master tablet. That master tablet could be sitting on an S1 if you have no dock. That's no problem. But in this case, we have a dock, so we've got it sitting in our dock. And here we've got different views. We can look at all the tracks in our session. We can look at channel information. So we can look at any sort of EQ dynamics, anything which is going on these channels. I can look at my sends, and I can adjust these using the rotary encoders here. So again, it's nice to have that hardware control. If I'm navigating my session, I tap on something, bring it up, and then I can just adjust the parameters using these knobs here. This functions as my control room section. So when we're using either Matrix or the new Matrix Studio, I can lock this knob here to be my control room knob, and that then controls my overall levels and so on. And I can even set up soft keys for other functions such as dim or changing my speaker selections and that kind of thing. So the dock really does become the centerpiece of your studio, and it really sort of turns this whole setup here into a very, very powerful mixing surface. In this case, 24 channels plus the attention fade of the dock. So hopefully that's given you a good idea of some of the capabilities of the S1, particularly in conjunction with the dock. So thanks very much for taking the time to listen to this, and please come down if you're at NAMM. Please come down, have a look, and learn more about it. Thank you very much.